One of my favorite Bible verses that talks about endurance and perseverance is James 1, verse 2 and 3. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. And I believe that by taking on big challenges, we're doing hard things, helps us grow. Case in point, I ran my first marathon in 2022. I ran the Philadelphia Marathon, and I set out to run a 3:20. I never run a marathon in my life, but hey, we were going to be ambitious. We shot for a 3:30, and we just sent it. No idea what we were doing. I grew up as a football player, so running was always a punishment. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea how to fuel. I had no idea how to recover. I had no idea how to structure a weekly training plan. And I realized very, very quickly, it was humbling how much intention and discipline are required to actually become a good runner. Every single morning for months, I started with a run. I made a lot of sacrifices to get good at running, but honestly, I look at them now as more so investments. I stopped going out on Friday nights, eating better, putting more attention on my sleep. And if I wanted to do this, I had this goal in mind, to be intentional with it. Like I said, I ran a 3:20. Not too shabby for a big boy, if I say so myself. And once I crossed that finish line, it was immediately I wanted to start breaking sub 3. It was kind of trendy at the time, but I felt confident in it. When I crossed the finish line, I felt like I had more in the tank, which was a good thing. I never run a marathon. I didn't know what I was doing. So the next 6 months, committed everything to trying to run sub 3. So I Googled flat, fast marathon courses in the Northeast, and I found one called Coastal Delaware Marathon. And I was like, oh my gosh, right on the beach, April, weather's gonna be great. I'm gonna have 5 months to train for this. Easy money. The money was not easy. Training all winter in Philly. 30 degrees, windy, rainy, snowy. I remember running on Christmas Eve, and it was 3 degrees, and I had to trudge through the snow for 14 miles. I looked like I was going skiing, but we did it. We made it through. We got the run done. So we get to race day in April 2023. I was confident until I realized it was 85 degrees that day. There was 95% humidity. I really hadn't practiced my long run fueling strategy. And oh man, after 4 miles, I was like, this ain't gonna be good. And it went from bad to worse very quickly. I ran a 1:29.5, so I was on pace, but at mile 13, honestly at mile 7, I was like, bro, ain't no way I'm running sub 3 today. My stomach got wrecked. I couldn't take down any gels, couldn't take down any liquid. And for the whole back half of the marathon, I was just walking, running. My mom actually jumped in at the end of the race for like the last quarter mile. And I got to the end and I almost blacked out. I just got so humbled by the heat and the conditions and my lack of preparation. So after I recovered from laying in the med tent for a couple hours, driving back to Philly, I really just wanted to take a break from running because my body was so beat up from back-to-back marathon preps. But me, being the smart guy that I am, signed up for the hardest 50K in the country before I'd even decided to sign up for that second marathon. So I had 4 weeks before I was going to be taking on Quest for the Crest 50K in North Carolina. So I took a week off because my hip and my knee were just absolutely trashed. And then I just started doing a lot of trail running. And I was like, man, I don't want to do this. But I signed up for it. I committed to it. And we got to do it. So we full sent it. I also couldn't get my money back. If I could, I probably would have backed out, if I'm being honest. Took me 13 hours and 10 minutes to finish that race. Started at 5 a.m. I finished at 6 p.m. Wild. Also, my buddy who I ran with, we got separated at like mile 7. So I did most of that alone. I had no headphones. Just me, the Lord, and nature out there. Gritting it out. 24,000 feet of elevation change over 35, 36 miles. 12,000 feet up, 12,000 feet down. There was no flat running. So that 50K was in May of 2023. So 4 weeks after I had just miserably failed at running sub 3. And I took a couple weeks off to let my body heal. And then I moved to Austin. When you move to Austin, You gotta be fit. Not a whole lot of rest going on. And then all of a sudden, like, okay, like I felt this imposter syndrome of if I'm not running, if I'm not creating videos about how to be a better runner, then like, what am I doing? Like, who am I as a creator? Right after I moved to Austin, even though my body was telling me, don't do it, I didn't listen, and I signed up for the CIM marathon with a goal again of trying to run a sub-3 marathon. So that was August 2023 when I signed up for that. And I was also prepping for a half marathon in Boulder, which was gonna be in October. But before that, it was 1 mile time trial day, because that's how my friends and I like to have fun. We like to torture ourselves. I don't know what in my right mind led me to believe that I could try to run a sub 5 minute mile. The last time I had ran a time mile was 8th grade. I think I ran a 6 something. I don't even remember. I'd run so much over the past 2 years and had never timed my mile, not once. And plus I hadn't even been running for the past couple of months. But hey, if there was ever a day, it was that one. So I walked up right here, got ready, started my watch, took off, and that was the last thing I remember before waking up in the hospital 24 hours later. So I come down off all the meds the next day, and they tell me, Dom, you had a cardiac arrest. And I'm like, can I get a definition on that? I don't really know what that is. Heart attack? Like, no, it's different. Something happened with my heart, still don't know to this day. They gave me an irregular heartbeat. They caused me to go into cardiac arrest. My heart completely stopped. If it wasn't for an off-duty firefighter who just happened to be here, and a friend of mine who knew CPR, I would have literally died right here. Still kind of gives me chills and goosebumps just being here. Truthfully, I wasn't thinking about the next time I was gonna run when I was in the hospital. I was just praising Jesus that I had a second chance at life. But as I came down off all the drugs they had me on in the hospital, I was laying there in the empty hospital room at 11 p.m. or so. I was like, man, my whole entire business and personal brand was essentially built on running. And now I didn't even know when I was gonna get out of the hospital, let alone when I was gonna be able to run again. And I was like, whew. All right, God, what's next?